Hello everyone, and welcome back to this very small tradition of a video series where I'm going to talk about different TV shows and a few movies. That sure sounds very interesting, doesn't it? Well, since you're here, I want to thank you for watching even parts of this very long video. The timestamps in the description are going to help you, or if you're brave enough, you can go in spoiler free and watch the whole thing from start to finish. Either way, let's quickly break down the structure of this video for some clarity. Part 1. Intro yapping. You are here. Part 2. Dropped shows, in order for me to also mention shows I didn't watch for long enough to give a proper ranking on them. Part 3. Extra shows and movies. There's a few shows and movies here that I cannot rank for one reason or another, but I still wanted to talk about them. And Part 4. The actual ranking. So yeah, I wanna actually rank the stuff I watched this year instead of doing that 1 to 5 stars formula I did last year. I don't know if this will work any better, but let's give it a shot. Before I finish my intro yappings, to the two of you that might care about why I didn't make a video covering the games that I played this year that I've made in the past 2 years, well, the reason for that is that I played like 2 games this entire year that are even worth mentioning. So to keep it short, my game of the year is Claire Obscure Expedition 33, followed closely by Hollow Knight Silksong. That's my every game I played in 2025 video for you, I hope you enjoyed it. No, but seriously, I've had almost zero motivation to play games this year. I don't know why, but I just don't really care about playing video games currently. I tried to play multiple games early on into the year, but I just can't focus or have any interest in playing them. Either way, now we can finally get to the topic at hand. Dropped shows. Here's a few shows that I ended up dropping for some reason. I'm not saying all of these shows are bad, and therefore I dropped them because I didn't enjoy them. Although I will admit, most of these are shit, but there are a few shows in here that I just might have not continued for some other reason. Unfortunate, but sometimes it happens. Here's the list, let's get this out of the way quickly. Andor Season 2. Absolutely not a bad show by any means. I just fell out of it because I was trying to watch it with my dad whenever new episodes came out. But unfortunately I live somewhat far away from him and both of us have our own schedules, so keeping up with Andor became extremely difficult and we just outright dropped it. I wanted to eventually get back to it, but I couldn't remember jack shit of what happened, so yeah, that's that. Dusk Beyond the End of the World. Random seasonal anime pick. It started out pretty good, I liked the post-apocalyptic theme. Sadly it turned into a harem show pretty fast, so I just decided to dip out at that point. Gen V Season 2. I wasn't a massive fan of the first season of Gen V, it always just felt like The Boys but worse. Well, no wonder as it takes place in the same world, but that doesn't remove the fact that it's just kinda uninteresting, and when Season 2 rolled around, I felt like I was watching it more out of obligation than actually for my own enjoyment, so what's the point? Kaiju number 8 Season 2. I didn't remember much from the first season, and to be fair I had zero interest in the second season. I don't know, this show just feels so damn boring, that's all I can really say about it. Serial Experiment Slain. Now this is a show I do want to get back to eventually. When I gave it a shot at the start of this year, I just wasn't in the right state of mind to appreciate it, so I decided to leave it for later. But yes, it actually seems very interesting, and I think once I find the right time and place for it, I'm gonna enjoy it a lot. The Beginning After the End. The animation is so bad that it puts even One Punch Man Season 3 to shame. I don't want to complain about animation often, but when the show is an actual PowerPoint, like, come on, why are you expecting me to care? And it's also an isekai, which means that there is a 90% chance that it's just power fantasy slop. I don't know, I'm not familiar with this IP, it could be a masterpiece for all I know. To Your Eternity. I started the show at a time when I was watching a trillion other shows simultaneously, so I decided to postpone this one. I'm hoping to get back into it one day, as it genuinely seems like a show I could enjoy. One Dance. I hope this clip says enough. Zombieland Saga. Yeah, no. Extra shows. One more small segment before we get to the actual ranking. Here is a few movies and shows that I wanted to talk about in this video, but for one reason or another couldn't really include in the ranking. As you'll come to see, I didn't include any movies in the ranking segment, because comparing movies to shows is simply unfair. So here's a few that I still wanted to mention. And here's my anime of the year. Yup, this is it. Chainsaw Man the movie Reze arc is a direct continuation of the Chainsaw Man anime series, which puts the main character Denji in a very tough situation, balancing between having a crush on two different women at once. Even when things seem to be going well, it wouldn't be Chainsaw Man if everything didn't get absolutely fucked up in the most fucked up way possible. I've been reading the Chainsaw Man manga for quite a long time, and ever since I first read it, I immediately fell in love with the Reze arc. It's always been my favorite arc in the entire story, and I was anticipating its anime adaptation with mixed feelings, as I was wondering if they would be able to do it justice. Fear not, dear viewers, not only did they do this arc justice, they somehow adapted it perfectly. And with that I mean it literally is perfect. I can't think of anything I would improve in this movie. It's simply absolute cinema, without the slightest exaggeration. It tells a very good story that's pretty self-contained from the stuff that surrounds it, and it manages to bring the vibe of the original manga version to the big screen perfectly. The first thing I thought when I left the theater was, how does something like this even get made? And I'm still wondering that very question. This movie is breathtaking in its visuals. The animation is quite possibly the best I've ever seen, and I don't know how they did it. Not only that, the direction is at the same time beautiful but also chaotic, which is very fitting of the story at hand. The soundtrack is also such an eargasm that blows most other movies out of the water. I've been listening to it since I saw the movie, and I don't think I'll be stopping anytime soon. I could talk about this movie until the end of times, but if there's something on this list that I want you to watch, it's this movie. But remember to watch the show first. This anthology is included here because it would be too hard to rank due to consisting of 8 different mini-stories. So basically the way this works is this is an anthology series that adapts 8 of Fujimoto's one-shots. So first of all, who is Fujimoto? He is the author of, well, Chainsaw Man, as I just talked about, the Chainsaw Man movie, and also he wrote Fire Punch and Look Back and others, and he is simply my favorite mangaka of all time. I really appreciate his weird yet unique style that manages to utilize his interest in cinema and capture human emotions in a way very few are capable of. No time to talk about each one of the adapted stories here, but I will provide my ranking of all of them here, from worst to best. Woke Up as a Girl Syndrome, Sasaki Stopped a Bullet, Love is Blind, Sisters, A Couple Clucking Chickens Were Still Kicking in the Schoolyard, Mermaid Rhapsody, Shikaku, and Nayuta of the Prophecy. Overall, this anthology was great, and I would highly recommend it for fans of Fujimoto's work. It's very weird, but so is everything this guy writes, and I appreciate it. Oh hey, it's One Piece. In the history of my channel, I've talked a fair bit about One Piece. Nothing about the stuff I've said previously has really changed. I still think that One Piece is peak fiction that deserves all the praise it has got, and even more. In the last year's Everything I Watched video, I talked at length about the entire show, but now that this year I've been all caught up, I'll only talk about the new stuff, which this year is the second half of the Egghead arc. This is also the reason why I didn't include this one in the ranking, even if this half of an arc alone is longer than most shows on that list. It's just not fair to rank a part of a show. Egghead's second part is exactly what it says. I would give you a synopsis, but I'll spare you from that due to this being so late into One Piece that I don't want to give you any more spoilers than you're already seeing in the background. Following One Piece weekly is so damn fun, and since I'm a manga reader, I already knew what this half of the Egghead arc would hold. But damn, seeing all of this animated is just so beautiful. Sure, there were some episodes here and there that felt like they were saving budget, but yeah, I think the vast majority of the episodes were very satisfying. And every once in a while we got some episodes that just absolutely blew my mind. I've probably said this in the past, but when the animators at Toei give an episode their all, it will result in an absolutely fucking cinematic experience unlike anything else. The Egghead arc is a bit of a weird arc. It features so many characters in different locations. Okay, this was mostly the case with part 1 and not as much with part 2. You have one of the best flashbacks in the entire show that sent One Piece fans into suicide watch when it was first airing, and then it concludes with some of the most hype, breathtaking moments that you've ever seen in any anime. I don't know how to convince you to watch One Piece if you haven't already, since many people are so hesitant to give it a shot, but I still highly recommend that you try watching it. I'm very excited for the show going seasonal next year, and as I already mentioned, I am a manga reader, so I know the next arc is going to be incredible. You seriously are missing out if you aren't watching or reading this story. Okay, it's about time we finally start the actual ranking. So yeah, this time we're going in order from the show that I thought was the worst of the ones I watched this year, and we'll cap it off with the best. Once again, don't take my opinions as personal attacks, we're only talking about entertainment after all, it isn't that deep. Take a very comfortable position, grab some snacks, and let's get on with it. What a fucking dumpster fire. Long ago, demon-like creatures known as Oni butchered humans and brought on destruction solely for their own delight. Thousands of years in the future, temperamental gun enthusiast Shiki Ichinose leads a carefree life. However, Shiki is suddenly attacked by a man and is rescued by his adoptive father, Tsuyoshi. As the two flee, Tsuyoshi reveals that Shiki is actually a descendant of the Oni, while both he and their pursuer are from the Momotaro lineage. Shiki awakens to his Oni blood that grants him immense strength at the cost of going berserk. Although the enemy escapes, Naito Mudano, an Oni teacher at the Rasetsu Academy, takes an interest in Shiki. There really is not much to like about Tougen Anki. It's a very boring and generic shonen that doesn't try much of anything new, featuring an impressively forgettable cast of characters and telling a story that just isn't really interesting in any way. It feels like it just took the worst parts of other shonen shows, slapped them together and ran with it. To be fair, I did only watch this show about halfway through, so technically it should belong in the section where I briefly talked about the shows that I dropped, but since half in this case means like 14 or 15 episodes, I think that's enough to give me an idea of what type of show this is, allowing me to discuss it here. The show is so uninteresting that I'm already running out of things to say. I have no clue how I stuck with this for that long, I really shouldn't have, just as I don't recommend you touching this show with a 10-foot pole. I really like One Punch Man, I really do. Which is exactly why I have season 3 this low. What happened to this anime is a tragedy, and saying that season 3 is a disappointment is an understatement. Saitama is a hero who only became a hero for fun. After 3 years of special training, he's become so strong that he's practically invincible. In fact, he is too strong, even his mightiest opponents are taken out with a single punch. Alongside Genos, his faithful disciple, Saitama performs his official hero duties as a member of the Hero Association. One day, monsters claiming to be from the Monster Association suddenly appeared, taking a child of Hero Association executive hostage. The S-Class heroes gather and plan a raid on the Monster Association hideout to rescue the hostage. Meanwhile, Garo, a human monster who was taken by the Monster Association during a battle with the heroes, awakens in the Monster Association hideout. I was a defender of Season 2 and I guess I still am. Comparing that to Season 3 is like a night and day difference. The treatment that was given to Season 3 is honestly very depressing to see. This is a very beloved IP for a good reason, and it should get the best treatment possible. But no, we got an actual slideshow. Not only is there a serious lack of animation, the whole thing just feels very janky in a way I don't really even know how to explain. The whole case is just really sad, and I very rarely say this, but go read the manga. In the video I made last year where I discussed shows just like in this video, I mentioned that I did not like Bakemonogatari, but I was still willing to give the sequels a shot since they are so praised and enjoyed by the community. I did in fact do just that, and watched the sequel show Nisemonogatari, as well as the prequel movie trilogy Kizumonogatari. Koyomi Araragi has recently survived a vampire attack and met several girls plagued by supernatural entities. On top of all this, he wakes up one morning to find himself kidnapped and tied up by his girlfriend, Hitagi Senjogahara. Araragi's sister Karen has run afoul of Deishu Kaiki, a swindler who once conned Senjogahara's family. As a result, Senjogahara has imprisoned Araragi to keep him safe from the devious Kaiki. But when Araragi receives a frantic message from Karen, he sets out to rescue her. Along with Karen's troubles, Tsukihi, Araragi's other sister, faces issues of her own. And when two mysterious women step into their lives, not even Araragi can anticipate their true goals, nor the catastrophic truths about his family soon to be revealed. If you are familiar with this franchise, it will come as no surprise that a person who didn't like Bakemonogatari will not enjoy the sequel either. This is just more of the same, which isn't a bad thing if you enjoy these supernatural and dialogue-heavy fanservice-filled mysteries. It's just not for everybody, and I've finally fully realized that. You don't have to like everything other people praise, and that's okay. I don't want to come across as what people have recently dubbed as an anime tourist, who goes around hating everything that isn't mainstream and telling people that they shouldn't be watching shows that I don't like, so let's just put it out there, I'm not one of those people. If you enjoy this show, that's great, but I don't think I'm the target audience for this. The Kizumonogatari movie trilogy on the other hand takes place before Bakemonogatari, following Araragi's first encounter with a vampire. These movies are actually pretty different from the shows. I felt like they were easier to follow, more action-packed and overall more simple. And you know what? I didn't hate them. Especially the second movie in this trilogy is actually pretty enjoyable. I've heard none of the other shows are like Kizumonogatari, however, so yeah, I think my time with this franchise is now over. Even if I didn't like it that much, I'm glad I was still able to find some enjoyment in these movies, and I raise my hat to this for doing something so unique and different from other anime out there. Damn, I was kinda looking forward to this. I thought the promotional material looked cool, and it was animated by Wit Studio, which is one of my favorite anime studios, so I was pretty excited to watch it. Well, unfortunately, it really did fall flat on its face. In a not too distant future, humanity has established a loosely organized world government with everything managed by an international AI network called Sapientia. People live peaceful lives by loyally obeying its rational decisions. However, Sapientia's lunar development project, which sends criminals and pollutants to the moon to maintain Earth's peace, creates disparity and poverty on the moon, sparking a catalyst for war. Jacob Jack Shadow gets caught up in this conflict after losing his family to a terrorist bombing by the moon's rebel army. Vowing revenge, Jack joins the Earth army as a scout on the moon, only to discover an unexpected leader among the resistance forces. The fact that I remember practically nothing about the story of Moonrise is already saying a lot. Let's get the positives out of the way first. This show looks beautiful. The animation flows really well and looks very nice. I'd say this might very well be the visually best Wit Studio work I've seen yet. That's pretty much where my praises end. The story of Moonrise might be the most forgettable out of any show on this list. I genuinely remember more about Tougen Anki than this. I remember it had some ideas and characters that seemed interesting at first glance, but it just fails to really do anything with them. I can't talk about this show much more, it feels like I never even watched it. I guess that really says a lot about this. Here comes Lazarus, from the creator of the legendary Cowboy Bebop. A brand new anime series with a similar vibe has hit the streaming services. In the year 2048, Dr. Dennis Skinner, a scientific genius dubbed second only to Einstein, developed a revolutionary painkiller Hapna. Being cheap with no reported side effects, the drug gained widespread acceptance, even though Skinner himself silently vanished 1 year after the launching of the drug. It is now 2052, and Skinner reappears, giving the shocking announcement that Hapna was designed to mutate into a lethal toxin, killing anyone who had consumed it. While he claims to have a cure, he will only hand it over if he is physically found within 30 days. Axel Gilberto, a maverick youngster serving a sentence of 888 years in a high-security prison, is unwillingly recruited by a group calling themselves Lazarus. Composed of eccentric misfits, the group has only one task: to find Skinner. With no means to escape and their lives on the line, Lazarus begins the hunt to find Skinner before the countdown to the end of humanity ends. Welp, that idea sounds really good on paper. I was actually really on board with this show when the first episode came out. I thought there would be a lot of interesting things they could do with this concept. The idea of showing a world slowly reaching its end, and everybody knowing about it, yet still trying to live their daily lives even if they know that for the most of them it will be over really soon. I think that's a really fascinating concept, and I would like to see that explored more thoroughly. Unfortunately, Lazarus mostly falls pretty flat. With its extremely cringe-inducing dialogue, underdeveloped characters and a plot while sounding really cool but still treating the viewer as an idiot, it just doesn't even come close to what Cowboy Bebop was able to do, and I'm not even the biggest Cowboy Bebop fanatic. Mappa did deliver on the visual side though. Lazarus looks really good and has many really impressive action scenes and choreography, not that Mappa often misses when it comes to the animation quality, but it always deserves to be mentioned. Along with Moonrise, Lazarus was one of the biggest disappointments of the year for me. I was so on board with it at first that it kinda hurts to shit on it. Well, better luck next time, Watanabe. Before I came to watch Tougen Anki, it was Fire Force that I declared to be the worst shonen I've seen, and it still takes that second place really proudly. Spontaneous human combustion, a chaotic phenomenon that has plagued humanity for years, randomly transforming ordinary people into flaming, violent creatures known as Infernals. While Infernals make up the first generation accounts of human combustion, the second and third generations became known as pyrokinetics, people gifted with the ability to manipulate and control their flames while remaining human. To combat the infernal threat and discover the cause, the Tokyo Armed Forces, Fire Defense Agency, and the Holy Church of Sol produced their answer, the Special Fire Force. Young and eager third-generation pyrokinetic Shinra Kusakabe, nicknamed Devil's Footprints for his explosive ability to ignite his feet at will, becomes a member of the lively Special Fire Force Company 8. Upholding the brigade's duty to extinguish the blazing infernals and lay their souls to rest, Shinra is determined to become a hero who will save the lives of those threatened by the flame terror. Okay, I'll be real with you, I could not make it past season 1, so maybe seasons 2 and 3 are better, I don't know about those, but man, this was rough. I think Fire Force has great concepts, but the story ultimately is really bland. I wasn't really interested in any of the characters. I think they are not interesting at best, outright annoying at worst. so it's not looking too good with that. I don't usually complain about fan service, but here it's just fucking laughable. It ruins actual moments in the story, and that's an achievement. If there's something to like, it's the animation. The show looks very nice, and I think David Productions killed it with the animation department. But the studio has made a far better anime that we'll talk about way later in this video. But either way, I don't think you should watch Fire Force. I just think it's a very bland shonen. After the murder of her father, Ryoko Matoi has been wandering the land in search of his killer. Following her only lead, the missing half of his invention, the Scissor Blade, she arrives at the prestigious Honnouji Academy, a high school unlike any other. The academy is ruled by the imposing and cold-hearted student council president Tatsuki Fujimoto, alongside her powerful underlings, the Elite Four. In the school's brutally competitive hierarchy, Satsuki bestows upon those at the top special clothes called Goku uniforms, which grant the people who wear them unique superhuman abilities. This show has its fans, but I'm not one of them. Okay, this is one of the most weird anime I've ever seen, for better or for worse. I really wasn't feeling it. It took me a while to even finish this show. I kinda forced myself to finish it. I think Kill la Kill is... I don't even know, it's very interesting. I think it comes across as like Gunnar slop, but some people defend it, so what do I know? I will admit it has very cool concepts, especially with the whole costumes thing. I think there's a lot they do with that, and it works. But yeah, I don't know, the animation is also really cool. Yeah, I've repeated that many times in this video. It's to be expected from Trigger, of course. But overall, it just wasn't up my alley. Like, this isn't a show for me, but you know, once again I appreciate it for trying something new. Zenshu wasn't at all what I expected it to be. From the promotional material, it seemed that Zenshu would be a story taking place in an actual animation studio following the anime industry, which I was really excited for. But what do you know, turns out it's an isekai. After graduating from high school, Natsuko Hirose starts her career as an animator. Her talent quickly flourishes, and she makes her debut as a director in no time. Her first anime becomes a massive hit, sparking a social phenomenon and earning her recognition as an up-and-coming indigenous director. Her next project is said to be a romantic comedy movie themed around first love. However, having never been in love herself, Natsuko struggles to understand the concept of first love, and as a result, she is unable to create a storyboard, causing the movie production to come to a standstill. One day, she passes out while working on her storyboard and wakes up in the world of her favorite childhood anime movie, A Tale of Perishing. I mean, the show being in isekai, it's not necessarily a bad thing in itself, but I was kinda let down because I was expecting something new and something cool. Actually, like showing the anime industry and all that, I think that would have been really cool. But being an isekai, Zenshu really just doesn't have much to offer. The story is kinda nonsensical, there's a lot of plot holes and everything, and the characters are either forgettable or annoying, as this seems to be like a continuing theme with these low-ranking shows on this list. Overall, I just don't have much to say about this one. Well, it's not the worst show on this list, and I just still wouldn't recommend it. Even in the isekai genre, there are better options. From an early age, Haruka Sakura was made an outcast due to his unconventional appearance and lack of social skills. However, the rough treatment turned him into a proficient fighter, which is now the only thing he prides himself on. Starting at Frieren High School, where it is rumored that strength is valued over academics, Sakura has only one goal: taking the top spot. Involved in a street brawl the day before his enrollment, Sakura happens to meet a group of his future schoolmates. Instead of the usual rejection, they fight alongside him, demonstrating that what the school actually cares about is protecting the town of Makochi from any harm. Hence why the students call themselves Boffurin. Though unfamiliar with kindness being shown to him, Sakura must learn to push past his discomfort when Boffurin is pitted against formidable enemies. After experiencing the feeling of acceptance, he finds himself fighting for the sake of others for the first time. I was vibing with the show at first, but over time I started to lose more and more interest in the story, especially in season 2. I feel like the story had really only one thing to say, that being to trust in your friends and accept their help and whatnot. I think that message is cool, but it really starts to lose its impact when it's being repeated over and over and over again, and the show just doesn't really have anything else to say in my opinion, and I ended up actually dropping it in season 2. Some of the fight choreography is really good in this show. I really always enjoyed the fights, and I don't know, I'm just not too into the, what's it called, the fucking juvenile fighter genre. But even I can say that Windbreaker probably isn't the best of its kind. Although I've seen like mixed opinions on this from different people, so maybe it's a me problem, but yeah, this is just how I felt. Well. I really wanted this to be good. I really did. I had played The Last of Us 2 video game like half a decade ago when it first released, and I did not like the game at all back then, which is why I tried to hold some sort of copium that the show would improve on the game's faults. Season 2 of The Last of Us picks up 5 years after the events of Season 1. Joel and Ellie's collective past catches up to them, drawing them into conflict with each other and a world even more dangerous and unpredictable than the one they left behind. I enjoyed the first season, so I really wanted to believe in the best possible outcome, but nope, season 2 is even worse than the game somehow. Ellie in this show is extremely annoying, and even if she wasn't my favorite in the game either, holy shit, she's so much worse in the show. The story of the game was already pretty stupid, and it's just worse here due to the limited runtime. There is really not a whole lot to like about this season. But that's not to say there's absolutely zero things to like, because we have a few good things here. I think Joel is a great character. I think his character in Season 1 was the highlight of that season, and that also applies to Season 2. But unfortunately, for reasons, Joel doesn't have a whole lot of screen time in this season, but for the time he has, he's really just as good as ever. Cinematically, this season also just looks really good, which isn't really a surprise. I just wish I enjoyed the story on some level, but nope. They did split the events of the second game into 2 seasons apparently, so we only got to see the first half of it here, but I'll be honest, I doubt I'm returning for Season 3. And here we go, from one bad sequel to another. Sang Gi-hoon and the remaining players fight for survival in ever deadlier games. In-ho welcomes the VIPs. His brother Junho and his team continues to search for the island, unaware of a traitor in their midst. Picking up in the aftermath, the final season finds Gi-hoon, player 456, at his lowest point yet. I was harsh on Season 2 of Squid Game in last year's video, and I'm not taking any of that back. I still believe Season 2 and now also Season 3 of Squid Game should not have existed and are pretty much a disgrace on the greatness that was Season 1. Season 3 is a tiny bit better than Season 2 in my opinion, but that's not much of a compliment. I think there's a few good episodes early on in this season, but that's about it. These few episodes managed to be at least a little enjoyable, and fixed a few issues I had with Season 2, mainly with the pacing and people of importance actually dying. That's all the compliments I can really give it. The ending of the show sucks. I just don't like what they did with the show. It's a tragedy. Let's just move on from this. I don't want to talk about it anymore. The inhabitants of a certain wealthy town think nothing of throwing their objects away. However, their waste is priceless to Rudo, a resident of the town's slums. Despite the constant warnings from his adoptive father Recto, Rudo spends his days searching for reusable materials that would otherwise be sent to the giant disposal area known as the Pit. Due to its vastness, the Pit doubles as a means of criminal punishment. Those dropped in are never to return again. When Recto is murdered by a mysterious assailant, Rudo is falsely accused of the crime and thrown into the pit. To his surprise, he awakens in a trash-filled area inhabited by enormous monsters formed from the junk. As the toxic air and trash beasts put Rudo to the brink of death, he is saved by Engine, one of the cleaners who wield weapons known as vital instruments to fight the monstrosities. Having gained his own vital instrument, Rudo soon joins the cleaners in the hopes of finding a way to escape the pit and avenge his father. I am not the biggest fan of Gachiakuta, to be honest. I want to mention that the setting of the show is very cool and that world is so unique and that I really like, but I never got invested in the story or any of the characters, except one. Okay, Amo's story halfway through the season was like the only thing that got me like, wow, goddamn, what the fuck. But yeah, I think Gachiakuta might be better if you just binge it, because I watched it weekly, and for some inexplicable reason, I kept forgetting everything that happened in the last episode, and this never happens to me with any anime that I watch weekly, but with this show I just always had to go back to the end of the last episode to gain at least some memory of what the fuck was even going on. Either way, not my favorite shonen of the year. Here's one of the weirdest anime I have ever seen in my life. Naota Nandaba is an ordinary 6th grader living in a city where nothing amazing ever seems to happen. After his brother Tatsuki leaves town to play baseball in America, Naota takes it upon himself to look after everything Tatsuki left behind, from his top bunk bed to his ex-girlfriend Mamimi Samejima, who hasn't stopped clinging to Naota since Tatsuki left. Enter Haruko Haruhara, a Vespa-riding, bass guitar-wielding, pink-haired psychopath whose first encounter with Naota leaves him with tire racks on his back and a giant horn on his head. When Haruko takes up residence at his parents' home, Naota finds himself dragged into the heart of the greatest battle for supremacy that Earth, and quite possibly the entire universe, has ever seen. With some of the weirdest visuals, story, and characters, Fooly Cooly is a true acid trip. I don't really even know what I thought of it. Like, I didn't really understand what was happening at all, yet at the same time some of the moments were kinda fucking awesome. This placement here might be disappointing as Fooly Cooly certainly has its fans, but the main emotion I was left with was confusion above all, and not necessarily in a good way. I will say, the soundtrack slaps. That was my favorite part of this, and the animation is also really good, as I already mentioned. I don't know if Fooly Cooly is an actual deep piece of avant-garde art, or just a box of random ideas emptied on a canvas. I'll leave you to decide if you want to watch it or not. This is a project I've been at since December of last year, and that project is still not finished. I watched Bleach for quite a long while. I got to around episode 200 if I remember correctly. Ichigo Kurosaki is an ordinary high schooler, until his family is attacked by a hollow, a corrupt spirit that seeks to devour human souls. It is then that he meets a soul reaper named Gachiakuta, who gets injured while protecting Ichigo's family from the assailant. To save his family, Ichigo accepts Rukia's offer of taking her powers and becomes a soul reaper as a result. However, as Rukia is unable to regain her powers, Ichigo is given the daunting task of hunting down the hollows that plague their town. As Ichigo and his comrades get used to their new duties and support each other on and off the battlefield, the young Soul Reaper soon learns that the hollows are not the only real threat to the human world. I wish I could say that watching Bleach wasn't a miserable journey at times. But let's give credit where credit is due. There is one really good arc in Bleach, that being the Soul Society arc, which is pretty early on into the show. This arc I really liked. It presented a really cool story with genuinely clever twists and great fights. It was actually really enjoyable. However, after this arc concludes, I feel like the creator thought that the people like Soul Society so much that the only way to get the audience's attention back is to repeat it over and over again with small changes. The result of this is the godforsaken Arrancar arc. I tried my hardest to get through this monster of an arc, but I just couldn't. It's so unbelievably boring and lasts for way too long. You know the issues are bad when this is coming from someone who got through Dressrosa in One Piece. I've heard the modern seasons of Bleach are apparently really good again, so I do have an interest to see what they're all about, but the thought of returning to the fucking Arrancar arc is horrifying. I don't know if I'm able to do it, but we'll see. Have you ever watched a medical mystery detective show such as House MD? Well, here you go. Here's an anime version for you. Nestled away on the rooftop of Tenkai General Hospital is the unconventional department of investigative pathology headed by the eccentric Dr. Takao Ameku. The tiny department, consisting of Takao and her sole resident Yu Kodari Takanashi, treats complex cases that most other departments within the hospital cannot resolve on their own. The mystery-obsessed Takao always tries to insert herself into cases that capture her fancy, much to the dismay of her colleagues and the police. Even if her meddling creates more problems for the hospital and those around her, none can deny the brilliance that the young department head exhibits as she weaves a diagnosis together. I don't know if I've mentioned this anywhere, but I'm a pretty heavy seasonal anime watcher these days, which means that I sometimes watch completely random picks such as this one. I don't have much to say about it. It's not bad, but not particularly memorable either. Well, I do remember there being one very emotional moment in one of the episodes, which was surprisingly deep, as it was dealing with death in a way I wasn't expecting this show to do, but yeah, that was a standout at least. For fans of medical mystery stories, I guess go for it, but there's also a better, quite similar pick a bit later in this video that I would recommend over this one. A show that gets a lot of hate from people, but I try to go into it with an open mind. Ever since the release of the innovative Nerve gear, gamers from all around the globe have been given the opportunity to experience a completely immersive virtual reality. Sword Art Online, one of the most recent games on the console, offers a gateway into the wondrous world of Aincrad, a vivid medieval landscape where users can do anything within the limits of imagination. However, the idyllic fantasy rapidly becomes a brutal nightmare when SAO's creator traps thousands of players inside the game. The logout function has been removed, with the only method of escape involving beating all of Aincrad's 100 increasingly difficult levels. Adding to the struggle, any in-game death becomes permanent, ending the player's life in the real world. I don't think SAO is as bad as people say it is, but that doesn't mean I don't have any problems with it. I actually do have quite a few. But I want to talk about the positives first. I think the idea, especially for the first arc, is insanely cool. I also think the show establishes itself pretty damn well in the first few episodes, and I was honestly pretty invested. However, the longer the show goes on for, the more it starts to crumble. The first arc is ultimately cut very short. I thought this would at least last for the entire first season, but it only lasts for about half of it. Even with its faults, I found the first arc enjoyable enough. Then the show goes into the second arc, and at that point my interest dropped completely. Despite the disappointment I had in the Alfheim arc, which is the second arc, I still went to watch season 2, which, yeah, more of wasted potential here. I'll say the Gun Gale arc is pretty cool with its concept and definitely not the worst arc in the show, albeit still flawed. And the best thing I got out of SAO is actually this very small arc at the end of season 2, where the show basically follows a girl who's fatally ill and her entire life is in VR games pretty much. Without spoilers, this was a rare moment in the show where I actually really appreciated what it did, aside from the very beginning of season 1 of course. In conclusion, SAO is a show with a lot of potential that it doesn't really use to the fullest degree at all. There are better isekai shows out there, trust me. Say hello to another random seasonal anime pick. In ancient times, some witches married their familiars, who had taken human form, giving birth to a lineage of ogres. One such ogre is Morihito Otogi, who while appearing completely human, still retains the inhuman strength of his bloodline. Nico Wakatsuki is a young witch and Morihito's childhood friend, but as a part of her education, she had to go to the witch's holy land to train and part ways with Morihito. Years later, just before Morihito's first year of high school, Nico returns home with one goal in mind: to claim him as her familiar. Although seemingly oblivious to her true feelings, Morihito and Nico end up living together under the same roof, with both of Morihito's parents elsewhere. While reluctant at first, Morihito accepts his new role, determined to help Nico seamlessly fit back in with the human society and protect her from fated disaster. This show was just a pretty fun one. There's not much depth here, it was just a comedy show where the characters were goofing around for the most part, and especially for the first half, I thought it was pretty enjoyable. A bit less enjoyable in the second half, but still enjoyable enough. The show has a lot of references to other anime, especially in the first half, and those were just really fun to spot, like doing the fucking Leonardo DiCaprio meme on every fucking reference that they had. It was fun. Overall, that's really all I have to say about it. It's a fun enough show, but probably won't leave any long-lasting impressions. Here's a pretty random horror anime. In Class 3-3 of Yomiyama North Junior High, transfer student Koichi Sakakibara makes his return after taking a sick leave for the first month of school. Among his new classmates, he is inexplicably drawn towards Mei Misaki, a reserved girl with an eye patch whom he met in the hospital during his absence. But none of his classmates acknowledge her existence. They warn him not to acquaint himself with things that do not exist. Against their words of caution, Koichi befriends Mei, soon learning of the sinister truth behind his friend's apprehension. Horror anime is very rarely good, but I don't think Another is the worst of the bunch. It has a pretty cool mystery, at least at first, and some of the deaths are a little hard to take seriously since they're shown in a way that makes them seem a little stupid at times, but yeah, it works, I guess. I think the characters, especially the main girl Mei, are at the very least interesting. To be honest, now we're entering the territory where the shows aren't bad, but not impressively good either, which makes it really difficult to say anything interesting about them. Another is a fine horror anime. It's a quick watch. Go for it if you want to, I don't know. "15 years ago, disaster struck human civilization, and now dangerous man-eating monsters roam the ravaged lands, posing an existential threat to the remaining survivors. Amid this turmoil, an isolated facility shelters children and nurtures them in peace. However, as a few among them find out about the world beyond the narrow periphery of their nursery's walls, their curiosity about it slowly grows. Meanwhile, in the outside world, young survivors Maru and Kiruka band together to search for a special place called Heaven, each for their own reasons. Carrying past burdens and tragic secrets, the two hope to find answers to the cruelty they have experienced in their lives and in the world which still remains in tatters." I fucking love this art style. Look at it. God damn, this show is beautiful. And I wish I could sing my praises for the story as well, but to me it was just okay, nothing special. I didn't really find any of the characters that interesting, but what I did find pretty interesting was the world itself. The show is basically split into two different parts, and these parts overlap in a way that makes you wonder what the hell is actually going on, and in what order do these events actually happen. I think it's pretty clever. I probably would have placed this higher if the show was longer. At only 13 episodes, I think it succumbs to the same issue that many one-core first seasons of an anime fall, where the show isn't able to quite catch my interest in that short of a time, but I can still see the potential and that if given more time, it could build into something special. But yeah, I really hope this gets a season 2 in order to really prove if it has more to it. The number of terrorist acts in Japan has never been lower, thanks to the efforts of a syndicate called Direct Attack. The organization raises orphaned girls as killers to carry out assassinations under their Lycoris program. Takina Inoue is an exceptional Lycoris with a strong sense of purpose and a penchant for perfection. Unfortunately, a hostage situation tests her patience, and the resulting act of insubordination leads to her transfer out of the DA. Not thrilled about losing the only place she belonged to, she reluctantly arrives at her new base of operations, Lycorico, a cafe in disguise. Takina's new partner Chisato, however, turns out to be quite different from what she imagined. John Wick with anime girls. Instant 10 out of 10, enough said. Well, I'm joking of course, but that's kinda what it is. John Wick with anime girls. Or at least when you really simplify it. In all honesty, it was just an enjoyable show. I really like the two main characters, Chisato and Takina. I think these two really bounce off of each other so well, and they're just a joy to watch. There's also some nice action and gun blazing, and yeah, that's all I really have to say. This was a perfect anime to watch while I was in plane on my way to Japan. It's just something that's cool, without the viewer having to pay too much interest in it. Ranma is one of the dumbest anime I have ever seen, and that's a compliment. I want to preface this is the 2024 remake of Ranma and not the original show. During their martial arts training expedition in China, Ranma Saotome and his father Genma suffered an accident, which in turn afflicted them with a curse. Whenever they are doused with cold water, Ranma transforms into a girl, while his father turns into a panda. Only hot water can reverse these changes, but any further contact with cold water opens the can of worms once more. Unfortunately, the trouble does not end there, as Ranma finds out about his betrothal to one of the daughters of Son Tendo, his father's closest friend. During the family's first meeting, it is decided that Ranma is to be married to Akane, the youngest daughter, a decision that is met with vehement protests from both sides. Ranma's status quo further adds to the chaos, leading him to a series of comedic situations and misunderstandings that in a grand scheme of things may just be what he needs to work with Akane. Rom-coms are very rarely my cup of tea, but when you mix those romantic elements with dumb shit like Ranma does, it suddenly becomes very entertaining. This is a show where you can just turn your brain off and have fun watching these characters go on with whatever stupid activities they are onto. I'm trying my hardest to think more stuff to say about this, but I don't know, Ranma is just a fun little show that's just fun, and that's about it. We'll skip the synopsis this time, since I don't want to spoil everything for people who haven't seen the show at all. Okay, first of all, at the time of making this video, the final episode of this season has not been released. The release schedule of this season did not really correlate too well with my schedule of pushing this video out by the new year, so yeah, we'll just have to live with that. I have, however, seen every single other episode, so I think I can judge this season fairly well. I'll be blunt, I'm a little disappointed with it. I wouldn't call it bad, it's definitely not bad, but my expectations were a bit higher. It really doesn't feel much like a final season. Like, if I didn't know that this would be the last batch of episodes we'll ever get of this show, I'd probably think that they would be making a 6th season. When I last talked about Stranger Things, I mentioned that the character cast of this show is just way too bloated, and I was hoping that season 5 would address this issue. But it doesn't at all. In fact, it makes it even worse by adding even more characters and getting rid of none. The other thing that caught my eye pretty much instantly is that the Upside Down has been reduced into this blank empty space, whereas it used to be this scary place full of unknown monsters and whatnot. Also, the writing of this season is very questionable at times. I won't dive into spoilers, but damn, it's definitely something. But even with all its faults, I would say I enjoyed it. Despite there being too many characters, most of them are still good and fun to follow. Vecna also returning as the antagonist is a choice I don't necessarily hate. He was good in season 4, and he is also good here. Once again, I haven't seen the ending of the show, so I can't judge it. It may fix many of the issues with the show and deliver the best ending of all time, or it can also completely shit itself. I don't know, everything's possible. If I were to guess, I think they're gonna go with a very safe ending. I just hope they make it enjoyable, at least. I have never seen any show try to cover as many topics as Sanda does in this short of a runtime. In a future where children are few and regarded as Japan's most valuable assets, Christmas has become a mere legend of the past. For the students of Daikoku Welfare Academy, boarding school where they're educated, protected and monitored, the mythical Santa Claus is a forgotten character of fiction. For the adults, Santa Claus is a very real menace that needs to be neutralized by the Saint Nick Pursuit Unit in case he makes an appearance. Shiori Fujimura, a student of Daikoku Welfare Academy, is determined to find her best friend Ichie Ono, who has been declared dead after being missing for 6 months. One morning, Fujimura summons her fellow class representative Kazushige Sanda, only to attack the unknowing boy. She is convinced that Sanda is the descendant of the infamous Santa Claus, the only person who can make her wish of finding Ono come true, and is determined to force out his dormant true self by any means necessary. Sanda is simultaneously covering themes such as aging from many different points of view, puberty, low birth rates, children's belief in tales, and a whole lot of other stuff. To be honest, I think it might try to do too many things at once. The show is only 12 episodes long. However, It is animated by Science Saru, the studio behind, for example, Dandadan, and that really shows. I love the studio and I'll watch anything they put out. Their style is so unique, and yeah, Sanda is very unique. Also, Christmas-themed anime are few and far between, so seeing more of those is really cool, and they aired this from October until Christmas, so that was very fitting. I enjoyed Sanda, but I think if it dialed back with just a bit with its topics, it could have probably been able to be more impressive. Solo Leveling, we meet again. It's been really interesting to follow the discussion around this show ever since the first season's release, especially now that it actually won last year's Anime of the Year award, which really made a lot of people mad. Well, I for myself don't think it's that serious, even though I would have never chosen it as the winner under any circumstances myself. But that's not to say Solo Leveling isn't fun. Sang Jinwoo, dubbed the weakest hunter of all mankind, grows stronger by the day with the supernatural powers he has gained. However, keeping his skills hidden becomes more difficult as dungeon-related incidents pile up around him. When Jinwoo and a few other low-ranked hunters are the only survivors of a dungeon that turns out to be a bigger challenge than they initially expected, he draws attention once again, and hunter guilds take an increased interest in him. As the calamity looms closer, Jinwoo must continue leveling up to make sure nothing stops him from reaching his ultimate goal, saving the life of his mother. I think Solo Leveling is very much in the same category as shows like Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer. It just offers some really high quality action and quote-unquote hype moments, but has little to offer in terms of story. Okay, I think Jujutsu Kaisen, for example, is better than Solo Leveling. I very much prefer story-focused shows myself, but sometimes you just want to watch cool shit without having to pay too much attention to it. And I think Solo Leveling is one of the best at what it does, season 2 even more than the first one. I understand the criticisms. I don't think the show deserves the praise it has got, but I can't shit on it either. It accomplishes everything it sets out to do, which is to entertain, and I think that's completely alright. Mao Mao, an apothecary's daughter, has been plucked from her peaceful life and sold to the lowest echelons of the imperial court. Now merely a maid, Mao Mao settles into her new mundane life and hides her extensive knowledge of medicine in order to avoid any unwanted attention. Not long after Mao Mao's arrival, the emperor's infant children inexplicably begin to experience grave symptoms, almost as if a curse has been cast. Curious Mao Mao easily solves the mystery and, to remain out of the limelight, attempts to leave an anonymous tip. Unfortunately, the dashing and perceptive eunuch Jinshi sees through it and manages to single her out. In recognition of her talent, Mao Mao is promoted to lady-in-waiting for the emperor's favorite concubine, Gyokyo. As Mao Mao continues to remedy the numerous ailments afflicting the imperial court, her pharmaceutical expertise quickly proves indispensable. I didn't think I'd enjoy this as much as I did. Not to say it's a masterpiece, definitely not, even though some people say it is. It's just an alright enjoyable show, and I was surprised by that. I really like Mao Mao as the main character. She is really fun to watch and the highlight of the show for sure. There are also some pretty clever mysteries that she needs to solve, and that combined with the aesthetic of Imperial era China, that creates a unique atmosphere that I haven't seen before. I don't think I've seen any anime before that takes place in this time period, much less cover the Imperial Palace and its inner workings in this level of detail. This genre isn't usually what I gravitate towards, but I very much enjoyed this enough to watch 48 episodes of it, so if these kinds of mystery shows are something you really enjoy, this is worth putting on your to-watch list. This is my first full CGI anime that I watched, and honestly, I'm surprised, it looks great. On the planet No Man's Land, reporters Meryl Streep and Roberto De Niro traverse the desert in search of infamous outlaw Vash the Stampede. But the man they find near the desolate town of Genora Rock is a far cry from the lethal terrorist they expect. In reality, Vash is a passive and carefree drifter. He is a proponent of peace, beloved by the residents of the town. His inaccurate reputation actually stems from the widespread atrocities committed by his twin brother, Million Snipes. Still, Vash is dubbed the humanoid typhoon due to the tendency for violent chaos to follow in his wake. CGI in anime has this weird reputation. Usually when somebody mentions that an anime is CGI or even has some CGI heavy moments, it comes off as a negative point. And that's not really that surprising considering how much we've seen of shit CGI. But when done well, CGI can actually look pretty good, which Trigun Stampede is a great example of. The original Trigun is a cult classic show that I had no prior knowledge of. I've just only heard about it, and I decided to give this reboot a shot. And yeah, the story was pretty alright. I would like to see more of downtime, if that makes sense, since we don't really get to see the characters interact with each other that much, and the plot just moves very quickly. A few extra episodes would have done this wonders. I also just really love the setting of this show, it's just cool as shit. Anyway, I had fun with this, and I'm looking forward to the sequel, which is coming out next year. For once, I'm gonna spare you from the synopsis, since throwing you in the middle of a Season 5 synopsis would probably be too overwhelming. In last year's video, I talked about Seasons 1 through 4 of My Hero Academia, and I said I would try my best to finish the show this year. And that's what I did, although it was way more painful than I was anticipating it to be. I was very negative with My Hero Academia last year, and that's definitely because I was so burnt out by it at the time, but as the placement of this on this list might indicate, my opinions on it have changed a little bit, now that I have finished the entire show. But you're gonna have to endure a bit more negativity as we go through all this. I'm sorry, bear with me. When I start with Season 5 in January, oh boy, this season was really fucking difficult to get through. It was by far the worst season of this show, and once I finally finished it, I put the show on hold for like 6 months. I'll say, in spring I watched a spin-off that was just released called Vigilantes, and that helped me get some motivation to get back into the main show, as I genuinely think Vigilantes was a good show, and some of the best content to have come out of this franchise. When I finally continued on to Season 6, it was not as bad, as it's a step up from Season 5, but it still wasn't really getting me back into the story all too well. After another break, I started Season 7, and that was when I was starting finally to warm up to this show for the first time like since Season 2. Season 7 and Season 8 as well, which is the final season that I got to watch weekly as it was airing, these two seasons are actually pretty good. I like them. Although I'll say that the conclusion was so unbelievably stretched out that it's crazy. The final fight starts in like Season 6, it goes on for so fucking long. I think My Hero Academia has some pretty high highs when it actually tries to say something meaningful. For example, the entire Todoroki family plotline that gets expanded upon throughout the entire show is the single best thing to come out of this franchise, period. But unfortunately, I think those good moments are surrounded by so much uninteresting trash, especially like seasons 4 through 6. In conclusion, I was fortunately left with at least somewhat of a good taste in my mouth, which is positive. And now I will never have to talk about anything My Hero Academia related ever again. Ah, shit.
I don't care at all. I am lost. I don't care at all. Lost.
This show. This fucking show. Money Heist is the promised neverland of live action shows for me. To carry out the biggest heist in history, a mysterious man called the Professor recruits a band of 8 robbers who have a single characteristic. None of them has anything to lose. 5 months of seclusion memorizing every step, every detail, every probability culminate in 11 days locked up in the National Coinage and Stamp Factory of Spain, surrounded by police forces and with dozens of hostages in their power, to find out whether their suicide wager will lead to everything or nothing. What a frustrating watch. Okay, let's start with the positives, and I have a lot of those. The first 2 seasons of this show, absolute cinema. If it were only the first 2, I would put this in my top 10 shows of this list, maybe even as far as top 5. I fucking love those first 2 seasons. They are extremely well put together, the writing is genius, and each character is super memorable. They even managed to finish it in a way that left me satisfied, and yes, this show was meant to end with season 2. Maybe we can all collectively pretend that the rest aren't canon at all. Can we do that, guys? Speaking of which... Seasons 3 to 5, or well, to be honest, I didn't even bother to watch season 5, but at least seasons 3 and 4, I don't even know if I want to talk about it, but I guess I have to. This might be the biggest tragedy that's ever happened to any show that I've watched. This upsets me more than One Punch Man season 3, more than The Promised Neverland season 2. I haven't watched Game of Thrones, but people seem to hate that ending, but I guarantee you, even if I had watched it, this would hurt me more. I was so in love with the show, only for it to fucking shit itself. Actually, shitting itself is an understatement. It ate laxatives and covered the entire Bank of Spain in diarrhea. Okay, I don't even know what I'm saying at this point, but I'm just so fucking pissed off. But let's give you some reasons as to why I think these seasons are shit. First of all, as I said, this show was meant to end with season 2. There was no room for continuation, and the only reason they made more is money and nothing else. Which is ironic. Second of all, they do the bare minimum with the story. They take the concept of the first 2 seasons and just try to repeat the same exact thing with minimal changes. The show barely changes. I wouldn't even say it evolves because it doesn't. It devolves, if anything. The new characters that the show introduces are all either forgettable or just straight up dog shit. Maybe if I half a barrel of copium, I can say that maybe it all comes together in season 5, which I don't know since I didn't watch it, but I'm very doubtful. I don't see any way out of this shithole that the 3rd and the 4th season dragged the show into. Talking about this makes me so mad, but I still want to remind you that the first 2 seasons are extremely good, and you should watch them. But don't continue past that under any circumstances.
Smile is something special, a ribbon is something rare. So I'll be special and I'll be rare with a smile and a ribbon in my hair. To be a girl they notice takes more than a fancy dress.
In 1962, a couple with their son moved to Derry, Maine, just as a young boy disappears. With their arrival, very bad things begin to happen in the town. That was the shortest synopsis in this entire video. Welcome to Derry was better than I expected it to be. I'm not a mega fan of the It franchise, feels weird to call it one, but it really is a franchise at this point. I still like the movies, and with this show they have a great opportunity to expand on the lore, which they do pretty well. If you're a fan of the movies, I think you'll find plenty to like here. But that's not to say that this show doesn't come without its issues. I think aside from the first episode, this show has a pretty slow start, and I also didn't really like where it eventually ended up. The military that plays a big role in this show is kinda fucking stupid with their decisions, and it just makes them pretty hard to take seriously. They almost seem like cartoonishly evil bad guys who just want to do bad things because yes. I really like how the show handles Pennywise once he finally makes an appearance. He's just as good as ever, and they do get pretty creative with him, which was great to see. In conclusion, Welcome to Derry is a fun show that people who like the movies will likely enjoy. Okay, this one I went with very high expectations. If you don't know, Frieren is the #1 highest rated anime on my anime list, and even on sites like IMDb it rocks extremely high scores, and everyone that I see online talking about it is praising it. I think it was last year when I first gave Frieren a try, but I dropped it after a few episodes because I was more focused on watching One Piece, but I knew I'd come back to it eventually, and now I did. During their decade-long quest to defeat the Demon King, the members of the hero's party, Himmel himself, the priest Heiter, and the dwarf warrior Eisen, and the elven mage Frieren, forge bonds through adventures and battles, creating unforgettable precious memories for most of them. However, the time that Frieren spent with her comrades is equivalent to merely a fraction of her life, which has lasted for over 1,000 years. When the party disbands after their victory, Frieren casually returns to her usual routine of collecting spells across the continent. Due to her different sense of time, she seemingly holds no strong feelings toward the experiences she went through. As the years pass, Frieren gradually realizes how her days in the hero's party truly impacted her. Frieren begins to regret having taken their presence for granted. She vows to better understand humans and create real personal connections. The placement of it on this list probably tells you that I kinda disagree with the people that praise it. Let's make one thing clear first. I liked Frieren. I would call it a good show. I appreciate what it does with the whole taking place after the story has already ended kind of thing, and that's very unique and cool to see. Also, seeing the world through the eyes of someone who has lived thousands of years and can't fully understand the short length of a human life is a theme I really liked. But to be honest, aside from those, I don't really understand what makes Frieren as praised of a show as it is. Sure, it was enjoyable. I love the art style and the world, and many of the characters are fun, but I was really waiting for something that would solidify the show as a masterpiece even in my books, but I never got that. I don't know if I missed something crucial, but to me Frieren was like a good 7 out of 10 show. Well, season 2 is coming out next year, so we'll see if it manages to change my opinion on it, but for now, this is where I'll place it. This is once again a type of a show I never watch, but I wanted to give this a go since it was recommended to me. Yearning to make friends and perform live with a band, lonely and socially anxious Hitori Bocchi Goto devotes her time to playing the guitar. On a fateful day, Bocchi meets the outgoing drummer Nijika Ichiji, who invites her to join Keisuke band when their guitarist Ikuyo Kita flees before their first show. Although the band's first performance together is subpar, the girls feel empowered by the shared love of music, finding happiness in performing. Bocchi and her bandmates put their hearts into improving as musicians while making the most of their fleeing high school days. I actually enjoyed it. It's pretty good. I really like the portrayal of social anxiety through the main character Bocchi. Sure, it's very exaggerated, but it's still a very good depiction of it. I'm extremely socially anxious myself, anyone that knows me, especially in real life, knows that, which is why I thought this show was very fun to follow, since I was able to somewhat relate to it. The band stuff isn't that interesting for me personally, but I gotta admit, some of the songs they play are really good, and I even added the opening song to my playlist. I really like it. Overall, just a fun little anime, and I think people who enjoy band shows are gonna like it a lot. Ah yes, Invincible is back at it again. Mark may have defeated his enemies for now, but it has come at a great personal cost to him physically and emotionally. Continuing his arc as Invincible, Mark has crossed the threshold and is now willing to do anything to protect his family, including breaking his own no-killing policy. This show is consistently good with each new season, and season 3 is really no different. I was surprised how fast season 3 came out after the second one, and apparently we're getting season 4 next year. It's pretty crazy how fast they're starting to pump these out. I don't really know what there is to say about Invincible that I haven't said before when I've been talking about Season 2, and Season 3 is just more of the same, and in a good way. As for some cool standouts I'd raise here, I enjoyed the end of the season a lot especially. There's a few really good episodes that I remember, especially the season finale had some really good stuff in it. Still, I think Invincible peaked in Season 1, but the rest are good as well, and I'm gonna be watching Season 4 when it eventually drops. The name Toru Sakamoto once instilled fear in every villain. No other professional hitman matched his prowess, and fellow assassins revered him. However, Sakamoto fell in love. In 5 short years, he married, became a father, put on some weight, and traded his weapons for an apron as he became the owner of a humble convenience store. Although Sakamoto is decidedly retired, he finds his old life of crime hard to shake off. His former partner, Shin Asakura, reappears and resolves to stay with Sakamoto's family under their strict no-kill rule. To make matters worse, a large bounty is placed on Sakamoto's head. Sakamoto has not lost his edge, and no matter what tricks his enemies pull, he will fight off every last one to protect his dear family. I see way too much hate for Sakamoto Days, or at least I saw when the first half of the show was airing. Sure, this show doesn't have Jujutsu Kaisen tier animation, but I think it looks completely fine. Overall, Sakamoto Days is a whole lot of fun. It is completely over the top, but that's just what makes it really enjoyable to watch. It feels like the anime equivalent of John Wick, if John Wick was an overweight store owner who can pick up bullets with just chopsticks. Okay, honestly, John Wick could probably do that now that I think of it. But anyway, I do recommend Sakamoto Days, if you just want something fun and not too deep to watch. The Holy Grail War is a battle royale among 7 magi who serve as masters. Masters, through the use of the common seals they are given when they enter the war, command heroic spirits known as servants to fight for them in battle. In the 5th Holy Grail War, Rin Tosaka is among the magi entering the competition. With her servant Archer, she hopes to obtain the ultimate prize, the Holy Grail, a magical artifact capable of granting its wielder any wish. One of Rin's classmates, Shiro Emiya, accidentally enters the competition and ends up commanding a servant of his own, known as Saber. As they find themselves facing mutual enemies, Rin and Shiro decide to form a temporary alliance as they challenge their opponents in the Holy Grail War. That was only the synopsis for Unlimited Blade Works, but I just know I watched Fate Zero and Heaven's Feel as well. Fate is really fucking weird. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. It almost doesn't feel like anime at all. I don't really know how to explain it. I like the story, I do. And I listed 3 different Fate series here that are all very much tied to each other, and I also enjoyed each one of them about as much as the others. I actually started with Unlimited Blade Works, and looking back, I probably should have started with Zero since I got so many spoilers from Blade Works, but I guess Zero also spoils that show, so yeah, very convenient, thanks Fate. If I had to choose my least favorite out of these, it probably would be Heaven's Feel, which is the film trilogy covering the alternate route of Unlimited Blade Works. It was actually surprisingly different from that, but I still didn't enjoy it quite as much. Those movies are still really good though, don't get me wrong. Ufotable also cooked with the animation with all of these 3, which is not surprising at all. The Fate franchise might have the most confusing watch order out of any other piece of media I've ever seen, but I think I've got the basic stuff down now and I can start watching the other stuff that's out there, but yeah, this was pretty cool. In Season 2, Peacemaker discovers an alternate world where life is everything he wishes it could be. But this discovery also forces him to face his traumatic past and take the future into his own hands. Peacemaker is a great example of turning a burnt-out genre on its head and making it extremely enjoyable in the process. Just like Season 1, Season 2 is also just hilarious and very fun to watch. While being dumb at times, it never sacrifices its story for the comedic moments, and it manages to hold that balance really well, which is something I really appreciate. Season 2 deals with the godforsaken multiverse, and I was cautious at first, but they did it in a way that I can't really complain about it. It works well and is very fitting for the character of Peacemaker. The only thing I didn't really like all too much was the ending, as it was cut really short and it felt like they were just using it to do some new project in the DCU, which was something I wasn't really a fan of. But in case you've got tired of superhero shows, Peacemaker is one of those that will remind you that there is still hope. I have always enjoyed Satoshi Kon's work, and while I wouldn't say that Paranoia Agent is the best of what this guy has to offer, it's still a uniquely impressive miniseries. The infamous Shonen Bat is terrorizing the residents of Musashino City. Flying around on his rollerblades and beating people down with a golden baseball bat, the assailant seems impossible to catch, much less understand. His first victim, the well-known yet timid character designer Tsukiko Sagi, is suspected of orchestrating the attacks. As Shonen Bat continues his relentless assault on the town, detectives Keiichi Ikare and Mitsuhiro Maniwa begin to investigate the identity of the attacker. However, more and more people fall victim to the notorious Golden Bat, and news of the assailant begins circulating around the town. Paranoia starts to set in as chilling rumors spread among adults and children alike. There is nothing else like Paranoia Agent, period. I have never seen an anime tackle such a theme in this way, and for that this show receives my applause. Like pretty much all of Kon's work, Paranoia Agent can be confusing at first, but when everything clicks and you start to understand what the show is trying to tell, you really start to appreciate it. I'm not the biggest fan of episodic shows myself, but this show somehow manages to use the episodic structure in its favor, and I couldn't think of any other way this concept could have possibly worked, at least this well. I would love to talk more about this, but it's super hard to do without spoilers, so just go watch it and experience this very weird ride for yourself. Spy Family is pure enjoyment to watch. Corrupt politicians, frenzied nationalists, and other warmongering forces constantly jeopardize the thin veneer of peace between neighboring countries Ostania and Westalis. In spite of their plots, renowned spy and master of disguise Twilight fulfills dangerous missions one after another in the hope that no child will have to experience the horrors of war. In the bustling Ostanian city of Berlin, Twilight dons the alliance of Lloyd Forger, an esteemed psychiatrist. However, his true intention is to gather intelligence on prominent politician Donovan Desmond, who only appears rarely in public at his son's school, the prestigious Eden Academy. Enlisting the help of unmarried City Hall clerk Kira Breyer to act as his wife, and adopting the curious 6-year-old orphan Anya as his daughter, Lloyd enacts his master plan. He will enroll Anya in Eden Academy, where Lloyd hopes she will excel and give him the opportunity to meet Donovan without arousing suspicion. Aside from just being really comfy, it also has some level of depth to it, although I do kinda wish it did more with the depth it has, but that's just a nitpick as that isn't the main point. I like pretty much every character in this show, they're all so fun to follow and all are unique. Okay, I just remembered the existence of yours brother and now I will change my previous statement. I like every character but this piece of shit, I hope he burns in hell. Anyway, my favorite season of this show is actually the most recent one of season 3. I think it had some very interesting flashbacks and overall great moments. If I would need to say one complaint, I think that would be that the main story doesn't really move anywhere after season 1, but you know what? I'd watch this show even if it didn't have any plot to it at all. The characters are just so strong in carrying it, but yeah, overall Spy Family is a very comfortable watch, so if you just want something fun, I would highly recommend this. The best word to describe Call of the Night is vibes, because the vibes are on a whole nother level with this one. Kou Yamori is an average middle school student who struggles with grasping the complex concept of love. Because he sees little sense in surrendering to the norm, he soon stops going to school. Plagued with insomnia due to his idleness, Kou begins roaming in the lonesome streets at night. One night, Kou encounters a bizarre girl named Nazuna Nakusa, who believes that people stay awake during the night because they are dissatisfied with how they spend their day, and cannot rest until they release their inhibitions. Nazuna offers to help Kou with his sleep issues, and invites him over to her place, where she convinces him to share a futon with her. Feeling uncomfortable, Kou only pretends to doze off, which is when Nazuna suddenly bites his neck, revealing herself to be a vampire. While Kou thinks the bite will turn him into a vampire, the specifics of transforming are not that simple. In order to change, he must be bitten by someone he truly loves. I've always found nighttime fascinating. I always stay up late, strangely enough find motivation to do things at night. Yes, this video is mostly made during nighttime, and I even find myself sometimes going outside at night because why not? And Call of the Night strikes that fascination in a way nothing else does. I'm not the biggest fan of romance shows, and that is a core element in the show, as you can probably tell from the synopsis, but it's also a lot more than that, and especially during season 2 I warmed up to it more and more. It's a show that's best when taken in slowly. Enjoy the atmosphere, it's really good. Daredevil is probably my favorite superhero of all time, which is why I was really looking forward to Born Again, but this ride of anticipation wasn't without worry. This show, unlike the original Netflix show, was made under Disney, so I was actually so fucking scared that they would ruin it. But fear not, this wouldn't be this high if I didn't like it. Matt Murdock, a blind lawyer with heightened abilities, fights for justice through his bustling law firm, while former mob boss Wilson Fisk pursues his own political endeavors in New York. When their past identities begin to emerge, both men find themselves on an inevitable collision course. Yeah, they actually managed to make it good. You can't really even feel that it's made by Disney. The character of Daredevil still feels like the character from the original show, and I really appreciate that. Oh, and Kingpin returns here as well, and yes, he's just as good as ever. What a brilliant antagonist. They do some weird decisions in the beginning of the show, but those didn't really affect my enjoyment that much, except the absence of one very central character that I was expecting to have a way bigger role in here. But anyways, this is just me nitpicking. Whether you like Marvel stuff or not, Daredevil is something you have to watch. Comedy anime is a genre that I want to have more of, but unfortunately it is pretty difficult to find many anime that do comedy well. But fear not, as Grand Blue is one of the best of its kind. Yori Kitahara moves to the coastal town of Izu for his freshman year at its university, taking residence above Grand Blue, his uncle's scuba diving shop. Iori has high hopes and dreams about having the ideal college experience, but when he enters the shop, he is sucked into the alcoholic activities of the carefree members of the diving club who frequent the place. Persuaded by upperclassmen Shinji Tokita and Ryojiro Kotobuki, Iori reluctantly joins their bizarre party. His cousin Chise Kotegawa later walks in and catches him in the act, earning Iori her utter disdain. Grand Blue follows Iori's misadventures with his eccentric new friends as he strives to realize his ideal college dream, while also learning how to scuba dive. This show is fucking hilarious. I was cautious going into this since when I read the same synopsis you all just heard, it didn't seem all that interesting to me, but I was worrying for no reason. This concept works extremely well and it's so fucking funny. Feel free to call my sense of humor childish, as this show definitely has a lot of stupid, childish jokes, but what can I do? I found it hilarious. Somehow, with each episode, Grand Blue manages to present a new kind of stupid setting or problem where you see the characters interact, and each time it just feels just as fresh as the last time. What I'm trying to say is that this show doesn't get old. There's 2 seasons of this, and the 3rd one has been announced, which I'm really excited for. I fully believe that they will be able to make something just as fun as the previous 2 seasons, and I will be there when it comes out. Grand Blue is my 2nd favorite comedy anime of all time. It's pretty close to being number 1, but that show, well, we'll talk about that later in this video. Every once in a while comes a show that actually makes a great impact with its story, and I think 86 is one of those shows. According to the Republic of San Magnolia, their ongoing war against the Giadian Empire has no casualties. However, that is mere propaganda. While the silver-haired Alba of the Republic's 85 sectors live safely behind protective walls, those of different appearances are interned in a secret 86th faction. Known within the military as the 86, they are forced to fight against the Empire's autonomous legion under the command of Republican handlers. Vladilena Milice is assigned to the Spearhead Squadron to replace their previous handler. Shunned by her peers for being a fellow 86 supporter, she continues to fight against their inhumane discrimination. Shinei Nozen is the captain of the Spearhead Squadron. Infamous for being the sole survivor of every squadron he's been in, he insists on shouldering the names and wishes of his fallen comrades. When the fates of these young souls from 2 different worlds collide, will it ignite the spark that lights their path to salvation, or will they burn themselves in the flames of despair? In anime, the topic of war is often present with various different shows, but only a very few actually dive deep into it and its consequences. The only one to do it better than 86, in my opinion, is Attack on Titan. So yes, 86 does it pretty fucking well as well. It manages to make you care about the characters, even though it will probably take a while to fully gain an understanding of what's happening in the world and all that. I also really love how they handle the connection between Lena, the person in command, and the 86, the soldiers that are treated as nothing, and the way Lena's character is developed throughout the story is done beautifully. The show isn't afraid to raise questions and tackle themes that unfortunately are a part of the real life we live in, and that's something I really appreciate. This is one of those few anime that I really want to get a season 2 for. I hope they make one at some point because I really want to see how this story continues, but yes, you should absolutely go watch it. The placement of Alice in Borderland on this list may be biased, I admit that. This is a show that I've been following since the very beginning, and returning to it with each new season has always been a joy. 4 years have passed since the events of season 2, and one day Usagi disappears. Guided by a man named Reze, who is researching the afterlife, she sets off on her own to the Borderland. Banda, who has become a citizen of the Borderland, appears in front of the devastated Arisu and fearlessly presents him with his final card, the Joker. Arisu has to return to the Borderland and risk his life to challenge the games in order to get Usagi back. The two are separated and must each join other participants to take on the deadly games. But did we truly need a Season 3? I don't think we necessarily did. The show really wrapped itself up nicely in Season 2 already. But Season 3 is still really good. Does a continuation of something need to be necessary if it's good on its own and doesn't ruin anything that came before it? I don't know, that's for you to decide. But my personal take is that not really. It's just that we often associate unnecessary sequels with bad writing and ruining previous events in the story. But if it manages to stray away from those, what's the big deal? As I said, I've been with Alice in Borderland since the very first season. I really like the characters and the world of the show. The concept is fascinating even after 3 whole seasons. Season 3 doesn't have most of the old cast present, but the ones we still have are just as great as ever. This show often gets compared to Squid Game, and for many years I've been trying to decide which one of the two is better, but now with both of them having 3 seasons, and if you watched this entire video and saw where I placed Squid Game's final season, my answer for this question should be pretty damn clear. I highly recommend Alice in Borderland. You'll watch it, it's great. How much can a show hate its main character? That's the question you'll start to ponder as you watch ReZero. When Subaru Natsuki leaves the convenience store, the last thing he expects is to be wrenched from his everyday life and dropped into a fantasy world. Things are not looking good for the bewildered teenager. However, not long after his arrival, he is attacked by some thugs. Armed with only a bag of groceries and a now useless cell phone, he is quickly beaten to a pulp. Fortunately, a mysterious beauty named Satella, in hot pursuit after the one who stole her insignia, happens upon Subaru and saves him. In order to thank the honest and kind-hearted girl, Subaru offers to help in her search, and later that night, he even finds the whereabouts of that which she seeks. But unbeknownst to them, a much darker force stalks the pair from the shadows, and just minutes after locating the insignia, Subaru and Satella are brutally murdered. However, Subaru immediately reawakens to a familiar scene, confronted by the same group of thugs, meeting Satella all over again. The enigma deepens as history inexplicably repeats itself. ReZero is certainly one of the best isekai anime out there. Actually, it's probably the one that's mentioned the most often in that conversation. And while I think there are better ones out there, it's hard to deny the brilliance of ReZero. This show starts out with a bang, and the first half of season 1 is my favorite part of the entire show. It establishes itself really well. While it may be slow, you're still invested because the show doesn't hold back at all when making its main character suffer as much as possible, and damn, I really feel bad for Subaru, he deserves better. He's basically trapped in a loop where when he dies he goes back in time and has to repeat it all over again, trying his best to find a way to escape that loop only to end up in another loop later down the line. And the deaths this guy goes through, goddamn, they are extremely brutal. I don't know how he keeps himself sane, honestly. I think ReZero has a bit of a fall off after the first half of season 1. The second half is not as good, but still very enjoyable. Season 2 is kinda divisive as well. I personally am not the biggest fan of it either. However, season 3 is when the show again hooked me, and when talking about full seasons, season 3 is actually my favorite one. I've heard a lot of glaze for the arc that season 4 is going to adapt next year, and I can confidently say that I will be there. Anyway, watch ReZero, at least give it a try, it is really good. Kicking off the top 10 entries of this list, we have Pluribus. which is one of the weirdest shows I have ever watched, and that's 100% a compliment. Pluribus follows author Karl Sturka, who is one of only 13 people in the world immune to the effects of the joining, an event in which an extraterrestrial virus transformed the rest of humanity into a peaceful and content hive mind known as the Others. The hive mind happily accommodates the wishes of those who remain unaffected, but admits that it will ultimately seek to assimilate them when it figures out how to do so. Carol is adamantly against their efforts, as she searches for a way to reverse the joining. The reason that this show caught my and other people's interests is probably the fact that it's written by Vince Gilligan, the mastermind behind Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Not so surprisingly, those two shows are among my favorite shows of all time. I'd say Breaking Bad is the best show ever made. So the expectations for Pluribus were very high, and it did not disappoint. But is it the new Breaking Bad? No, hell no, but it's still an extremely impressive show. The concept of the entire humanity being possessed by some kind of a virus that connects their minds and makes them all, or well, that one entity extremely positive in a very creepy way is a concept that is so weird but so interesting at the same time. It's like a twist on the concept of a zombie apocalypse, if that makes sense. I also really like how the show explores the ways the survivors handle the situation. Some of them, like the main character Carol, try to fight back, some of them isolate themselves completely, and some of them make the most out of the situation by LARPing a millionaire and flying the literal Air Force One, because the infected just literally do pretty much anything you want them to do. It's a concept with many possibilities, and the first season has already made it very clear that this is a very well written show that needs to be watched by everyone. I am very highly looking forward to season 2. And at number 9 we have Lord of Mysteries. What in the actual fuck did I watch? In a Victorian world of steam, dreadnoughts and occult horrors, Zoe Mingrui awakens as Klein Moretti. He walks a razor's edge between light and darkness, entangled with warring churches. This is the legend of unlimited potential and unspeakable danger. Lord of Mysteries may very well be the most confusing piece of fiction that I've consumed. While watching this, for the majority of the runtime I had no understanding of what was really even happening. It's a show that really expects a lot from its viewer. You need to dive a bit deeper to appreciate it, and that's what I did, to some degree at least. I genuinely did research on the plot to fully understand everything that was shown in this first season, and holy shit, it is very impressive once you finally start to put the pieces together. Not only that, the animation is absolutely breathtaking. I love how this show looks. It is so beautiful. This type of Victorian/Gothic era aesthetic mixed with the Lovecraftian style horror is genuinely so fucking peak. And yes, I love Bloodborne, how could you tell? What annoys me is that there is very little of this style in any anime or even in any video game. I want more of this. Well, at least we're getting more Lord of Mysteries at some point. While I recommend this show, be aware that it expects a lot from you as well, so watch it if you really feel like using your brain. And at number 8 we have Mushoku Tensei. Alright, I know Mushoku Tensei has its reputation, but if you've seen anything from this show other than clips on Twitter, you should hopefully know that its reputation does not do it justice, which is why I'm here to defend it. Despite being bullied, scorned and oppressed all of his life, a 34-year-old shut-in still found the resolve to attempt something heroic, only for it to end in a tragic accident. But in a twist of fate, he awakens in another world as Rudius Greyrat, starting life again as a baby born to 2 loving parents. Preserving his memories and knowledge from his previous life, Rudeus quickly adapts to his new environment. With the mind of a grown adult, he starts to display magical talent that exceeds all expectations, honing his skill with the help of a mage named Roxy Migurdia. Rudeus learns swordplay from his father Paul and meets Sylphiette, a girl his age who quickly becomes his closest friend. As Rudeus' second chance at life begins, he tries to make the most out of his new opportunity while conquering his traumatic past, and perhaps one day he may find the one thing he could not find in his old world: love. Yes, Mushoku Tensei has its weird moments. A lot of them in fact, especially early on. Will these weird moments be enough to put someone off the show completely? Yes, and if you can't look past them, it's fine, I understand. However, I think in that case you are missing out on a very special story. When talking about story and just story alone, I think Mushoku Tensei has the best story in any isekai anime ever. The journey you go on when you watch the show is extremely good, filled to the brim with interesting characters, areas, races, villages, history, languages. The world building is some of the best I have ever seen. The thing that will, at times, be the hardest thing to enjoy in this show is Rudeus himself, and he's definitely one of the most divisive main characters ever. On one hand, you are disgusted at some of the things he does, but on the other hand, you still kinda root for him to do better, and he does evolve throughout the story. It's not like there's no character development. There is a lot of that, and it's very nice to see him improve, but he also sometimes takes steps back, which might be frustrating, but that's realistic character development. What I also really like is that this show makes most out of it being an isekai. Most isekai shows just throw the isekai factor out the window the moment the main character has been transported into a new world, but Mushoku Tensei actively reminds the viewer and Rudeus of his past life, which is a huge part of his character development throughout the story. It is extremely well done. But yeah, this is a divisive show, but I highly suggest that you try to look past the shitty aspects of it and try to enjoy the rest, because the rest is really good. At number 7, we have Konosuba. Konosuba is the funniest anime ever made. Yup, comedy officially peaked with this show. After dying a laughable and pathetic death on his way back from buying a game, high school student and recluse Kazuma Sato finds himself sitting before a beautiful but obnoxious goddess named Aqua. She provides the NEET with two options: continuing on to heaven or reincarnate in every gamer's dream, a real fantasy world. Choosing to start a new life, Kazuma is quickly tasked with defeating a demon king who is terrorizing villages. But before he goes, he can choose one item of any kind to aid him in his quest, and the future hero selects Aqua. But Kazuma has made a grave mistake. Aqua is completely useless. Unfortunately, their troubles don't end here. It turns out that living in such a world is far different from how it plays out in a game. Instead of going on a thrilling adventure, the duo must first work to pay for their living expenses. Indeed, their misfortunes have only just begun. Konosuba is also my favorite isekai anime ever, and I've talked about quite a few of them in this video, I just realized that. Okay, in terms of story, Konosuba does not even come close to, for example, ReZero or Mushoku Tensei. But the reason why I put Konosuba above those two is its entertainment value. This show is fucking hilarious, and as I said when I was talking about Grand Blue, comedy anime is hard to do right, but Konosuba, in my opinion, does it better than anything else. And this show's 4 highlights are its main quartet of idiots. The main characters in this show are all complete dumbasses, but each of them manages to be stupid in a unique way. You have Kazuma, the complete loser of a human being who somehow manages to drag not only himself but his entire group into trouble time and time again. Then you have Aqua, the literal goddess who is very strong, but also so fucking stupid that she is completely useless. Oh, and she's an alcoholic as well. Next up is Megumin, an incredibly strong witch, but here's the kicker: she's invested all of her strength into explosion magic, which means that the only thing she can do is basically launch a nuclear explosion and then have no energy to even walk afterwards. And lastly is Darkness, the honorable knight who also happens to be a masochist pervert. These four together are so fun to watch as you can probably imagine. I watched everything in the Konosuba franchise, including all 3 seasons, the movie, every single OVA, and the Megumin spin-off, and I still want more of this stupid ass show. It's so peak, go watch it, you won't regret it. Hopefully. At number 6, we have the second season of Dandadan. I will never stop glazing this show. I was there the day the first episode of the first season was released, and ever since then, I've watched every single episode of both seasons on the day or within a few days of their release, and I even went and read the entire manga. Dandadan is simply so good. While the mission to exorcise Jin and Joji's family's home is underway, things are not going as expected. Momo Ayase narrowly evades an attempted abduction, while Ken, Okarun Takakura, and Gigi are ambushed by the Kito family, the unsettling landlords of the cursed estate. The trio's efforts threaten the foundation of this enigmatic town shrouded in legends and mysteries. As Momo, Okarun, and Gigi are drawn deeper into the maze of folklore and supernatural entities, they must each utilize their unique powers if they want to survive and unravel the secrets of the uncanny town. The best way I'd describe this show to anyone is a bunch of totally random ideas and genres slapped together in a one big pile of insanity that somehow works perfectly. I'm still wondering how that works, but it just does. You have everything from aliens and ghosts to romance to comedy to high school slice of life to high octane fight scenes to backstories that hit like a truck. It truly is a mix of everything. Season 2 is at the very least on the same level as Season 1 for me. Both of these seasons are extremely impressive and a whole lot of fun. I think most people who try to watch Dandadan become fans of it, although it being as crazy as it is, it may put someone off, but come on, this show is just amazing, what more can I say about it?
Jump into the night, 'cause I can smell the trouble. Don't you miss the fight, just get there out the door. I gotta make a difference, I'm moving with a purpose. I'm feeling my inertia. Stubbornly, I will believe. Stubbornly, I will believe.
Cracking open the top 5, here comes To Be Hero X. One could say that 2025 was the year where Chinese animation rose to new heights. Not only did Neza 2 become the highest grossing movie of all time, but on the TV animation landscape both Lord of Mysteries, which I talked about earlier, and also To Be Hero X blew up the minds of viewers around the globe. And they wouldn't be able to do that if they weren't awesome as fuck. This is a world where heroes are created by people's trust, and the hero who has received the most trust is known as X. In this world, people's trust can be calculated by data, and these values will be reflected on everyone's wrist. As long as enough trust points are obtained, ordinary people can also have superpowers and become superheroes that save the world. However, the ever-changing trust value makes the hero's path full of unknowns. Saying that To Be Hero X is a visual spectacle is a big understatement. This show is 24 episodes of just pure eye candy. The animation quality is extremely high. It also mixes various completely different art styles, and watching it jump back and forth from 3D to 2D is crazy. And the most clever move they pulled is that, at least at times, the art style switching ties to one of the character's powers. Even though this character didn't have that much screen time, let me tell you, when this guy is on screen snapping his fingers and changing the art styles, I don't even know how to describe it, it's so fucking beautiful. And as you know, for me, a story is more important than visuals, and the show also excels in that department. The show is kind of an anthology where it follows different characters at different times. These more contained stories are just some of the best I've ever seen in a superhero genre, not only in animation but in any superhero media. And the stories also tie together in a very exciting way. The only very small thing that annoyed me a little bit was the ending. It cuts off so abruptly, and it's clear that a second season has at the very least been planned. So please, for the love of God, give this show a season 2. But yeah, you need to watch this show. At number 4 comes Takupi's Original Sin. If you're not familiar at all with the show or the manga, seeing the footage I'm showing you at the moment might raise some questions. How did this cute show about an octopus ball creature get into the 4th place of this list? Well, Takupi is nothing like you think it is. A squid-like creature known as a Happian leaves his home planet with the desire to spread happiness across the universe. He lands on Earth, but quickly finds himself in danger of captivity by his inhabitants. Fortunately, he is found by an unsmiling little girl named Shizuka Kuze, who feeds him and names him Takupi. Feeling indebted, Takupi decides to do everything in his power to bring a smile to her face. The task is easier said than done, however. While Takupi's attempts to lift Shizuka's spirits lead to unintended consequences, he is determined to take things into his own tentacles, test his understanding of human beings, and achieve his goal of spreading happiness. It pains me that I'm not able to talk about this show to much of any extent, since I've decided to spare you from big spoilers with all of these shows in the list. And talking about Takupi in any level of detail is already a spoiler in itself. What I will say is that this is a show that came out of absolutely nowhere for me. I wasn't even planning on watching it before it started airing. Hell, I barely even read the synopsis while scouting for the summer season anime. But then I started hearing more and more about it when the first episode was released, and my curiosity started to awaken. Then I went and watched the first episode, and nothing could have prepared me for what kind of show this was. And it just got better and better with each new episode. And the fact that it's just 6 episodes long is crazy. Of course, the animation and art in the show is top notch, but what will make the biggest impression is the story. As I said, I can't really dive into it at all, but Takupi is at its best when you watch it without knowing anything. So, what are you waiting for? Go watch it.
忘れてたこの世界はこうつこう言いますだから知りたいんだでも怪獣みたいに遠く遠く叫ぶ
And the top 3 kicks off with Orb on the Movements of the Earth. Another show that came out of fucking nowhere for me. I actually started watching this when it started airing last year, but at the time I decided to not include it in my last year's Everything I Watched video since it wasn't finished and I wanted it to fully conclude before talking about it. And that was a decision I do not regret at all. 12-year-old prodigy Rafal believes in living rationally, so as to earn praise and respect from society while not being led astray by his emotions. To this day, he publicly states his intention to study theology, the academic field held in highest regard in early 15th century Poland. However, an encounter with a mysterious man upends Rafal's life, sparking an illogical desire to instead pursue his passion for astronomy. Rafal is determined to prove the beauty and rationality of heliocentrism, the theory that the Earth revolves around the Sun. This belief is considered heretical by the powerful Church, which promotes geocentrism, the Sun revolving around the Earth, as the sole truth of the universe. Those whose beliefs do not align with the will of the Church suffer unfathomably gruesome consequences. Have I ever mentioned that I love history? No? Well, now you know. It's probably not surprising that I'm also a huge fan of Vinland Saga, and to all Vinland Saga enjoyers out there, check out Orb. Orb is one of those shows that you can show to anyone, even non-anime fans, and they'll have no problems with it. It's a show that handles its storytelling in a way I've seen no other show do. Depending on how you view things, Orb either has many different main characters or no main character at all. It is also a very rare case of a show that has pretty much no plot armor for any of the characters. Like with Takupi, I don't want to dive too deep into Orb's story, so I won't spoil things for you, but it's an extremely impressive piece of fiction that has sparks of non-fiction to it as well. I very highly recommend watching this show. Very highly.
大地を踏みしめて君は目覚めてゆく天使の微笑みですれ出して始まりはいつでも遅くないさ
Taking the silver medal in this fierce competition, Hunter x Hunter lands on the 2nd place. This is one of those must-watch anime that you can't stop hearing about. And yeah, I'll be real with you, I fully agree, this is a must-watch. Hunters devote themselves to accomplishing hazardous tasks, all from traversing the world's uncharted territories to locating rare items and monsters. Before becoming a hunter, one must pass the hunter examination, a high-risk selection process in which most applicants end up handicapped or worse, deceased. Ambitious participants who challenge the notorious exam carry their own reason. What drives 12-year-old Gon Freaks is finding Jing, his father and a hunter himself. Believing that he will meet his father by becoming a hunter, Gon takes the first step to walk the same path. During the hunter examination, Gon befriends the medical student Leorio Paladinite, the vindictive Kurapika, and ex-assassin Killia Zoldyck. While their motives vastly differ from each other, they band together for a common goal and begin to venture into a perilous world. Hunter x Hunter does pretty much everything really well. It's a show where it's hard to find really any objective flaws. I think the pacing is perfect, maybe with the exception of the beginning of the Chimera Ant arc, but that aside, the show moves in a pace where you are never bored of it. With the exception of the previously mentioned Chimera Ant arc, none of the arcs in my opinion overstay their welcome, and whenever you start feeling like, yeah, we can move on now, the show moves on. Now let's talk about the Chimera Ant arc, because that's easily the most talked about arc of the show, and it's also its longest arc. It's like half of the entire show actually, goddamn. It's slow, especially at the beginning. But let me tell you, once this arc gets going, it doesn't fucking stop. I never thought any show would make me care about ants and board games, but here we are. I don't know how Yoshihiro does it. Every prevalent character is memorable, every location is different, the world in general is very fascinating. The world building is some of the best I've ever seen, to the point where it's almost comparable to One Piece. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a flaw, but I just find it really sad how we're never going to see the end of the story. For those who don't know, the anime ended in 2014 and the manga has been on and off hiatus for a very long time due to the author's health issues, so it's very likely that it will never be finished. But even with what we have, it's an all-time classic. You can't go wrong with Hunter x Hunter. If you're even remotely interested in anime, this really should be on your watch list. But even with all that praise, there is still one more show that I watched this year that I enjoyed even more.
闇を欺いて切なをかわして刃すり抜け奴らの隙をつけ貫いた想いが未来を開く Like a burning stone 熱く Like a burning stone 血脈に刻まれた因縁に浮き上がる消えない誇りの
And at long last, we have arrived to the final stop. My favorite show that I watched this year is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Going into this show, I was never expecting it to land as the #1 show of this year for me, let alone one of my all-time favorites. My knowledge of JoJo was very limited, and that was on purpose because I want to go into shows as blindly as I possibly can. The only thing I knew about JoJo was that it's weird, bizarre even, and that people really like Steel Ball Run. But I was blown away by this story. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure tells the story of the Joestar family, a family whose various members discover that they are destined to take down supernatural foes using powers that they possess. The story is split up into unique parts, each following a member of the Joestar family, who typically have names that can be abbreviated to the titular JoJo. Beginning its tale in 19th century England, young aristocrat Jonathan Joestar finds himself locked in bitter rivalry with Dio Brando, a low-born boy who Jonathan's father took under his wing after the death of Dio's father. Discontent with his station in life, Dio's fathomless lust to reign over all eventually leads him to seek the supernatural powers of an ancient Aztec stone mask in the Joestar's possession, an artifact that will forever change the destiny of Dio and Jonathan for generations to come. Yes, it's bizarre. Really fucking bizarre at times. But that weirdness gives JoJo an identity unlike anything else. It's fucking hilarious, extremely creative, and genuinely tells multiple great stories. JoJo is divided into 9 different parts at the moment of this video coming out, and 6 of which are currently animated. I want to preface, I'm currently an anime only, so I've only seen parts 1 through 6. All of these parts tell a different story, with new characters, new locations, hell, even new genres. It's fucking wild how these parts can differ from each other, and I adore that. And even when they are all unique, they are still connected to each other, so there might be characters from previous parts in the following parts, and the way it all comes together while being so self-contained at the same time is just admirable. Since this is the final show on this list, I'll give it a little bit of extra time, as I want to talk about each of the 6 parts on their own. So, here's a ranking of parts 1 through 6 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, in my opinion, from worst to best. First off is part 1, Phantom Blood. Okay, first of all, there's no bad parts in JoJo. Part 1 isn't bad. But when compared to the other parts that follow it, it just doesn't reach those heights, not even close really. It's by far the shortest part, and you can really feel that Araki, the author, was testing his ideas with this part and likely didn't fully know where to take the story and its concepts. Even with all that, I think there is plenty to like about it. While Jonathan isn't the best JoJo by any means, he is still a great character. Dio is the best antagonist in the entire series in my opinion, or well, he might be tied with a certain other blonde antagonist, but he is still really fucking good, and this might be a hot take, but part 1 Dio is the best Dio. Phantom Blood also, in my opinion, has the best ending out of any of the parts. I really like how it wraps up. Part 1 is able to do a lot in just 9 episodes, but the others just do things better. Next up is part 6, Stone Ocean. This is probably the most divisive part in the entire show, from what I've seen at least, so I'm sorry if I hurt any feelings with my placement of it here. It is far better than part 1, I want you to understand that. Jolene is one of the best JoJo's. She's probably my second favorite of them all. I really like Jolene. There's a lot of cool things that part 6 does. I like the prison setting, and there's also some really creative fights, even on JoJo standards. So the few criticisms of it that I have are that, first of all, this was the only part where I struggled to really understand what was happening at times. Not always, but sometimes. Might be a skill issue, but to me this was the most confusing part of them all. Also, the side character cast wasn't nearly as strong as in some of the earlier parts. Better than part 1, yes, way better, but still, aside from a few cool characters, I just felt like Jolene took the spotlight from them. And I'll be real with you, I didn't really like the ending. It's hard to talk about this without spoilers, but I didn't think it was satisfying at all. I know it was necessary for the franchise, but it just rubs me the wrong way. Anyway, I do want to emphasize that it's still a good, and for the most part, a very enjoyable part. Next up, part 3, Stardust Crusaders. So at the time of making this video, I also went back and read the manga for the first 3 parts of JoJo, and I think the manga version of part 3 is way better than its anime counterpart. And it's really a matter of only one really crucial thing that the manga did better: the pacing. The anime moves pretty damn slowly at times, and many of the fights are kinda just nothing burgers. Well, they are creative still, but they still follow the Monster of the Week formula that part 3 really loves to do. However, aside from that, part 3 has the best main cast of characters out of any of the parts in my opinion. The Crusaders are so fun to watch, they're all great, and their characters are all pretty well fleshed out. Jotaro as the protagonist is cool, not my favorite JoJo, but not my least favorite either. And yeah, Dio is still great. Even if I said he was a tiny bit better in part 1, that's because he barely even is in part 3. For the most part, he is just sitting in his mansion. So yeah, that's the reason. My favorite thing about part 3, however, is the traveling aspect of it. I love traveling, it's literally like my #1 passion in life. I've even made a few traveling videos myself, and while JoJo of course is the weirdest thing to compare real life traveling to, that's not really what I meant. What I meant is that I love the aspect, and with that we actually see a shit ton of different locations in this part, which is very cool. Then we have part 2, Battle Tendency. Now the ranking of part 2 has been very difficult for me. Throughout the making of this video, its placement has gone back and forth. It was even my favorite part at one point. So my point is, I really love it. This is when I really started liking JoJo. Its length is perfect, it doesn't overstay its welcome at all, unlike part 3. It moves fast, and it's really where JoJo becomes JoJo, even if the stands aren't present. Joseph is my favorite JoJo, he's so fucking amazing and really funny. I'm so glad he also gets to return in the later parts. but his Part 2 version is his best version. Part 2 is also batshit insane, even on JoJo standards. It's very reminiscent of those over-the-top Hollywood action flicks from the 80s and 90s. Also, Caesar is the best Joe Bro in the show, and Lisa is fucking great as well. That was an important thing to mention. I see too little of Lisa appreciation in the community. Coming in at my second favorite is Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. What can I even say? This part slaps. It's a very bold move to go from a world tour quest of finding an immortal vampire that was Part 3 into following the lives of high schoolers in a small town in Japan, but fucking hell, it's just so good. Saying that Part 4 is a slice of life show is a bit misleading. It's still JoJo that we're talking about after all, so you know it's still pure insanity, but I also appreciated those quieter moments that were sprinkled here and there. Okay, let's fully start the Part 4 glazing. Josuke is one of the best JoJos. I said Jolene is my second favorite and Joseph is my goat, so Josuke can get the third spot, just know that he is awesome. The overall character cast in Part 4 is in my opinion the strongest of them all. Not the main character cast, but like talking about every character in this part. It's probably the only part that really makes the most out of its cast. Like, you think these characters are just one-hit wonders, but most of them actually return in the story, and they are all very memorable and very good. And yes, Kira is one of the best antagonists. I said he's tied with Dio, and yeah, I stand by that, he's so fucking good. Overall, a really good part, but not quite my favorite. Because my favorite is Part 5, Golden Wind. Part 5 has the best story in the show thus far. Having Italy as the setting was a nice touch, and it manages to scratch that Part 3 traveling itch for me. But it does it in a smaller scale, so it doesn't get out of hand. The main character cast is second only to Part 3. I really like the cast here as well, they're all awesome. Now that I think about it, Giorno might be my least favorite JoJo, not to say that he's bad because he's not bad by any means, but still, I might actually like the others a bit more. It gets overshadowed by the rest of the cast because they're genuinely so good, especially Bucciarati and Naranja, fucking goated characters. The antagonist, let me just call him the boss for the sake of this video, is also just really good, and I don't think he's appreciated enough by the community. At least, I haven't seen enough appreciation for him. I don't know what else to add, I just really fucking love this part. Wow, I've talked a lot about JoJo. Probably too much, but this video is already long enough, isn't it? Either way, I'm happy to crown JoJo as my favorite show of 2025, and what's crazy is that it has a very good chance to take that crown again next year with the release of Steel Ball Run. I cannot wait to watch it, I've heard all the praise and I've tried my hardest to not read the manga, I hope it lives up to the hype. But yeah, do yourself a favor and watch JoJo. Phew, is that it? Yeah, wow, okay. That was a long list. Hey, I'm really grateful if you made it all the way here. Whether you used timestamps, skipped ahead or watched the entire thing, I'm really thankful that you used your precious time to listen to me yapping about entertainment. And especially if you really watched the whole thing, what can I even say? You're a real one. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. But yeah, I think we can call it a wrap. Comment down below what you watched this year, I'm interested to hear your opinions. And also, if you have any suggestions on how I could improve videos like this in the future, feel free to let me know. I played around with different ideas for this video, and while the outcome might have not been perfect, I'm still open to feedback. Okay, that's it. Have a very happy new year, and I will see you in 2026. Hasu out.